Recording in progress.
Did you get it?
Yeah, just this morning, I needed it, yeah. And I went, yeah, my back is itching, I went down there without this shirt and tie on, and. Yeah, I'm one of those people, I'm like, I need a cut, and I'm like, oh, it's walk-in Wednesday, so I'll go in and, so.
You don't own your own set of clippers, man?
Well, I shaved it last spring, remember? People told me not to, so they're like, you look mean, and I'm like, oh, you know, so, I did shave it last spring, so. It does, somebody actually said that, they're like, you look like the people you prosecute now, and I'm like, so, yeah, not really the look that you're going for as the DA, yeah. A criminal with braces, so, good dental work in Department of Corrections.
On that note, thank you everybody for attending county court today. It's Wednesday, November 6th, 2024. If you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Post-election day county court session. Congratulations to all those who won their offices countywide, statewide, and national. Not gonna get into the party side of things or nothing, but just congratulations to those who were running for office. I think, let me see, vouchers we've taken care of. Any late items for the agenda?
I don't.
Agenda approval for today's agenda.
I move to approve today's Harney County Court meeting agenda. Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve the Harney County Court agenda for November 6th, 2024. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Then we have several sets of minutes to go through here. We have a work session minutes on October 16th, 2024.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve work session minutes, Harney County Court work session minutes from October 16th. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? Motion carries. And then county court session on that same day, October 16th.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve county court session minutes for October 16th. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. And special session, Harney County Court special session minutes from October 25th.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Motion's been made and seconded to approve county court special session minutes for October 25th. Any further discussion? And hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. And then service recognition. We have one here that I need to deliver. The other one has been delivered already, but for Ashley Campbell at the Rural Health Clinic, 5 years employment with the county and the health clinic. Thank Ashley for her service to Harney County. And John Tingu, is that how you? Tingue. He works with the road department. Eric said he works down on the south end and is kind of a blades when they need extra help or whatever. I don't believe he's a full-time employee, but steps up when they need him down there. But 15 years of service with the county. So we thank you, John, for your service to Harney County. Next topic is medical death investigations. Is that correct? MDI program with Don Martin and Ryan Hughes. So I shall turn it over to you. Thank you.
Well, to kind of clarify a little bit more why we requested the time with the county court, as as the county court knows, and I've been in conversations with Judge Hart, the medical examiner program is housed by statute or associated with the district attorney's office. So historically, that budget is within the district attorney's office. Our office manager, Cheryl Reynolds, as you guys all know from budget presentations, she's kind of the work mule when it comes to the budget and drafting, the DA's office budget. I mean, obviously with my input, but also the medical examiner's, component. Dawn Martin is our medical legal, or MDI supervisor. I've talked with the county courts, and one of the things that we're gonna be talking about in the upcoming year is upping the rates that the MDIs get paid. It's basically volunteer work. But Dawn, supervises that program. One of the things that we've kind of run into with the program is we've tried to formalize it a little bit more with Dawn being in a supervisory role. But being in kind of a smaller community, one of the benefits of it is that you have kind of direct access to individuals to kind of ask something or make a request. I think where some of the breakdown was happening is the MDIs would give Ms. Reynolds in our office a direct request, and Ms. Reynolds would be like, well, has that been approved by Dawn, Martin, things along those lines? Because Cheryl is the ordering of the supplies, things along those lines, because the budget is within our office. I mean, I had some concerns about the like, well, the budget's still within our office. I would like us to have some, oversight of it. And I've kind of talked with Judge Hart, kind of about this, like what it would look like. Because Dawn approached Cheryl and I and asked about moving it out into essentially its own budget, but still within the DA's office. And Judge Hart kind of said, from the budget presentations, how that is set up. I don't know how it's set up, but Judge Hart suggested like, well, it could look like the sheriff's office budget where, the jail has their own budget, but it's still underneath the umbrella of the sheriff's office. So there is some oversight. But there's just kind of it would take a little bit of work off the plate of Ms. Reynolds about ordering things and kind of managing that component of the budget, because more and more stuff gets put on the DA's office just from the criminal realm. So Dawn, she was the one that kind of made the request. And so I kind of myself. So I'm like, yeah, let's go down and kind of see what they think about doing that. And so Dawn was going to kind of talk about the benefits of it, why it may serve our county better. I forwarded an email, and I mean, I'm not sure how many people watch this, the county court type of meetings, but I would just say, because I think there should be some public recognition for the individuals. I know Judge Hart had communications with Dr. Hurst up at the state medical examiner's office, and he was very complimentary about our MDI program, about our model that we have set up locally. I know the ladies, it's all ladies that do it. I think that's kind of a testament to their community involvement. So if there's any guys listening out there, if they'd like to become MDIs, we'd appreciate it. But I know there's been times in the past where Dr. Hurst there's comments kind of around the state that he can be very terse, would be maybe a polite way to phrase it. So the fact that he was complimentary about our program, I think maybe that's just him getting caught at a bad moment. So
he's also very overworked.
Yeah, he's very overworked also. So, kind of giving him some grace also, but I thought that was nice to hear that the model and the way we have it set up here, I mean, we do it on a shoestring budget, but that he thinks it works well and that they do good work. So Dawn's kind of here to kind of talk about why she sees the value in having more control over the budget and maybe removing that step of having to place orders of, like, I'll just say Ms. Reynolds yesterday opened up a box thinking it was maybe like toner cartridges or whatever. It was a box of hypodermic needles, and she was like, geez, it kind of caught her off guard, and we're getting that type of stuff up in the DA's office. We're thinking it's maybe, like I said, toner. and it's medical things coming into our office. So I'll give the floor to, Dawn.
You guys know what an MDI is?
I do, but I don't. So, anything you want to say?
What do you think an MDI is?
I think that-
What do you know?
I don't, well, I believe that they have to, be involved with any of the categories of death in the county, and they have to, see the body and do certain things. That's what I don't know. And of course, any of the forms or any of the communication with the DA's office, should there be, possibly a criminal, cause. But that's all I know.
Excellent. Okay, so MDI stands for Medical Legal Death Investigator. There's a Senate bill out there now that's working through approval because it used to be called Medical Legal Death Investigator. And they want to change that to shorten it, medical legal, one word, medico legal,
Okay,
like medical legal,
okay.
death investigator. And there's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo, as you all know, that has to go through. I think it was proposed like over 2 years ago, still sitting on somebody's desk, waiting for that. MDIs are also known as last responders. We are not the first responders, we're the last responders. We are the last person there before a subject, a decedent, gets taken away to the funeral home, and we do the investigation. We work in conjunction with law enforcement. We work in conjunction with medical community. And basically, we are the eyes and ears for the medical examiner who certifies the death certificate. We are not allowed to certify the death legally, but we are the ones who communicate to our, on the local level, which currently we don't have a county medical examiner, but the state pathologists as well. We work with law enforcement. Is there any foul play? Do you see signs? Certainly, they have a good ear, nose, all that to, say, something's just not right. The other thing, sometimes after the fact, many times I've talked to Ryan, I'm like, did you know this? And he's like, not a clue. I'm like, well, here, let me show you the pictures. So that's what we do. It's an investigation, both on the legal side and the medical side, and we kind of wrap it up into a nice neat little package. There is a training that's involved. It is a week-long training initially. That's just learning all the ins and outs, the lingo, what an MDI does. It is now in person again. It shifted to online for the whole COVID thing, and Oregon opened it back up at the state medical examiner's office. They do a once a year. They're hoping to move to a twice a year training. Once someone is trained, they come back to their local community and train with the more experienced MDIs. And then once they show that they're ready to roll, they start going out on calls on their own. So that is in short what an MDI does. There are a lot of things that an MDI needs to function depending on what the call is. It can vary from a release on the phone. Sometimes the hospital will call when they've had someone arrive that was an expected death, but it's less than 24 hours. There's a whole Oregon Revised Statute section on death and medical legal death investigating, what it is and what requires an investigation in the state of Oregon. I have everything on a PowerPoint, but we don't need to go into the nitty-gritty details about that. I can just answer any questions that you guys have. Part of the problem has been, since I've been in the supervisor position, is there's too many arms to request something, and then it might go here or it might go there, and then it gets lost, and I have to continually move around. As he said, it's essentially a volunteer position. It's nobody's day job. There's not enough volume here in our county to make it a salaried position, a paid position. You go to Multnomah County, Clackamas County, Marion County, any of those, they have several positions that are full-time paid positions. We don't have the volume here, as is the case for a lot of things. But that being said, there is a need for, someone who knows about the whole program and is versed in it, to be in that capacity of, the supervisor. And whether or not it's me, who knows how long I'll be in the position, but the supervisor position really should be the one, to basically make the decisions and be accountable, should be the one going to the county court and saying, this is what we need for the budget, because this is what happened this year, and it's just not working. It's been literally, pulling my hair out, the last year or so, trying to get things together, and it's, that needs to change. It kind of just needs to be its own functioning program. That, like the rest of the arms of the county, comes and reports to you guys, and that's my spiel. Any questions?
So do you get compensated for the hours that you work on the supervisory piece as well?
I do.
Besides just-
I do.
Okay.
I came under contract,
Okay.
with my nursing background, and also work for the county at, home health and hospice. So, it can vary from anywhere, probably minimum of 3 to 4 hours a month, all the way up to 50 to 20. Depending on how many calls there are, how many, at the beginning of this last year, we had 3 new trainees. So I was going out on calls with them. I was, and I'm still, kind of in there reviewing, their charts that they file with the state, to make sure that everything, all the Ts are crossed and Is are dotted and that kind of thing. So yes, I do get, the MDIs themselves get paid $1 an hour to be on call. And that's a laugh. It really is. As I make the schedule, I'm looking at Thanksgiving weekend and I'm like, the people that do it for, that interests them, for whatever reason. Not gonna go there. We all have, that curiosity, whether you have a medical background or whatever, that interests them, and they chose to do that, but it's kind of a labor of love, to serve your county. I look at it as, if I don't do it, who's gonna? I really would like to see, things like, holidays compensated a little bit better. If, an MDI goes out on a call, they get paid $150. That's great. If they got a call from the hospital and they released over the phone, it might work out to about $50 an hour. By the time you write your report, by the time you get medical records, by the time you review it, call the the medical exam, all that stuff. I had one a couple of years ago that I worked out to about $4 an hour. Because I got $150 for that call, and a year later, I was still fielding phone calls from the family and still trying to, organize things and it happens, it does. It kind of, balances out, but it's, really in this day and age for what a medical legal death investigator does. I'd really like to see them compensated a little bit.
Is there a mileage component to it?
They do get paid mileage out of city limits. So anything in town, mileage doesn't count, but if we end up going out in county somewhere, then it counts mileage. So, and that's the standard county rate, which is still, I think, 62.5. So.
But just to another thing, just with the MDIs, Commissioner Doro, she kind of hit upon the criminal component of it. What it also is there if the decedent is not under the care of a physician, that's an unattended death. And, you know, as I've thought about the program more and more, what they're really doing is, I shouldn't say really doing, another component of what they're doing is compiling data for the state. You know, that they report back to the state, like, you know, maybe it was a cause of diabetes, you know, type thing, you know, the state takes all that data and looks at it, it's like, well, maybe there's an issue with diabetes in that particular area, you know, just kind of in the conglomerate, so they are feeding that. So it's almost, when you hear unattended death, that doesn't mean the person just died by themselves, it means they were not under the care of a physician. Because if they're under the care of a physician, then, I mean, these guys are still involved to a component, but not to the degree. But I will say, I mean, and I've had this conversation recently, I think the socioeconomic fiber of Harney County is changing. And so I think you're probably seeing more people not under the care of a physician when they're passing away.
A lot.
And so, I mean, those numbers are going, I would be predicting them to be increasing. You know, not that it's more people are dying, it's just more people are not under a physician's care. I think the main focus of why we wanted to come today is kind of familiarize the county court with the MDI program, because it is something I think that happens quietly and very, very quietly in the background, but more about moving the budget, it kind of into its own subsection of the DA's office. I don't know what the proper budgetary term is, but that was more of what our request was today, that I don't know the term.
Yeah, so what I would envision is, because the DA's office is part of the general fund. And like the DA's office, the sheriff's office are different departments within that fund. So I would probably envision that we create maybe a medical examiner department and move the funding for the medical examiner and the funding for the MDI program into its own department, wherein it can be managed more streamlined, probably manage those funds better. Now, like with your office, you manage your budget, but you also manage the legal library, the law library budget as well, right? So while we might take it and put it into another department, the DA's office might still have overall oversight over that department. But it's separated out, so it's easier to see those numbers and where they're going and whatnot. That's probably the way I would envision it at this point. And I don't see a problem with that. I really don't. I think it might kind of bring to light a little bit more if we have it separated and watch those numbers to see how much money we're expending versus being mixed in with your budget.
I mean, from just strictly the DA's, from the criminal prosecution component, not this medical examiner component that is associated with the DA's office, I would appreciate that. Cause I mean, I know when we did the budget this year, we budgeted in for a medical examiner, and I know Judge Hart's, and I've been doing on those emails, been in communication with the hospital. I mean, I wouldn't want a budget hawk looking at the DA's office budget and saying, wow, it really swelled last year. It's like, well, that was for this very specific component that had really nothing to do with the bulk of the DA's office job, which is 80 to 95% criminal prosecution, you know, type thing. So I think it would be cleaner, you know, just for the public looking at it, saying the medical examiner component.
Well,
Yeah,
it's a mandated function that we have to provide. And if it's spread out or split out into its own department, then the public can see what we're spending on that program. I think that's a good idea to do that. I would be in favor of it. Coordination with the treasurer and see what that takes to create that department within our existing budget, but.
Well, and I think to Don's point, you know, if there is legislation or an opportunity, you know, at that level to engage, you know, having it kind of separated out, then, you know, your communication with the county court and advocating for some of that and trying to get it into a committee, because that's what it takes in the process, is that we got to get it into a committee to get it heard as a bill. You know, those things maybe become a little clearer, and you know, can be advocated for more directly that way.
Yeah,
So my background in law enforcement and with the sheriff's office here, back in the day, it was called the deputy medical examiner, the deputy ME, and I was the deputy ME. So I'm familiar with that role of, and that side of it. I will say that then compared to now, the program is much more professionalized. There's a lot more training that goes along with it and everything, and I think it's great. I think it's a great program. And the training that the people get to have to go out and do that work is, it's a good program. Moving those funds into another department aids in that professional development and identifying it as a professional element of our county.
Yeah.
So again, there's another byproduct of probably moving it over into its own department.
I mean, I will say, I mean, I didn't tell Dawn this, or I haven't seen her since we have a law enforcement head meeting at the end of every Wednesday of every month. And we actually were talking about the medical examiner program and just internally what has to happen from a law enforcement standpoint. And a law enforcement that has been here longer even than I have, we're very complimentary also to the program now. They're like, it's way better than what it was, you know, even 5 years ago. You know, that the MDIs responding are good, the response time is better. You know, it is a big responsibility because, I mean, there's potential legal components, you know, after, I mean, just from the criminal world, I'll say, you know, in cases of like last year or two, it was the MDIs that were out on scene. You know, in cases that are still in prosecution, the doctors didn't come down from Portland. I mean, I was on one of the scenes when when the ladies were on the phone with the doctor, kind of being like, okay, what else should we be doing? I mean, they were in direct communications with them, but like Dawn was saying, I mean, they are the boots on the ground, you know, doing that. I mean, they look at me, I'm like, well, what's he saying on the phone? I'm not a doctor either. I mean, just from a criminal standpoint, I mean, I'm looking at this body being like, oh, I think that's something we want to document. But, so, I mean, that saves a huge cost for the county, not having to have a doctor on, no disrespect to nurses, but, you know, or MDIs, but like, it's, so, but it's a huge cost savings too, so.
You keep hitting on all the points that I wanted to mention. I did want to mention that Dr. Hurst, right?
first,
Hurst, his comments, and when I spoke to him about our medical examiner program, and he was very complimentary. He said, you guys have a unique situation where you have a very capable MDI program, which then alleviates a lot of the, I don't want to say responsibility, but the field work on the ME themselves. And then, yeah, it's like a nurse practitioner or whatever that works underneath the doctor. It's a more affordable way of providing healthcare. Having the MDI program is more affordable than having to have an MD go out on those scenes. So all around, it's a good program. Kudos to those who volunteer and spend their time to perform those services.
But I'm assuming you would still advocate for us to get an MD here locally.
Oh, we have
in
to.
charge of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so on that note, I have been in contact with the hospital. I got I guess a sample example contract from another county that contracts through their local hospital to provide the ME services. So it was a starting point. It was just a starting point. I sent it over to them. HDH, how would you feel about doing this and providing the services for us? They came back with, they didn't feel like it would be the right fit for them, but they did recommend a couple of MDs that might be interested in contracting with the county to be our district medical examiner. The district medical examiner is appointed by the state medical examiner. So that we have, we'll find somebody, send a letter to the state medical examiner requesting appointment, and then they'll make the appointment. And then whatever contract we have with that doctor for compensation will be between us and them. We do have a couple that have expressed interest, and hopefully shortly we'll be able to.
I would highly recommend that myself be included on that process. There are some concerns from our MDIs with certain physicians who are not necessarily team players. And there are those that are. And having been a nurse for 25 years, that can make or break, a program, that can make or break a case, that can make or
Yeah,
break
absolutely.
a lot of things.
So let's-
So,
I'm at that point where I need to reach out to those doctors, those physicians that have expressed interest. So let's have, and again, I'm not mentioning any names here, but let's have a conversation before I make that phone call.
I'd appreciate that.
Okay?
Well, and to ensure that, even if a person is selected, that if you do find that it's not a good relationship, that there contractually is a way for us to take care of that too, and to try a different avenue if needed, and so making sure that your
Good
feedback
exit
is
clause.
heard along the way, and that, we aren't feeling saddled with someone that isn't helping the program thrive.
I got a couple questions. Are there any other counties that you're aware of, Lake or Grant or anyone that also is doing a good job and that you are going to borrow some of how they do it?
I think, we have a monthly in-service through the state. That's kind of the only time like, if you had a room full of people, I couldn't tell you who was an MDI from what county. There's not a
That's fine.
lot
I
of
just didn't know
networking, because a lot of, what I know is through my discussion with the state office. And sometimes they'll say, talk to this county or whatever, but even they, I mean, it's been so busy, and the state, they've been through kind of a turnover as well. Since I've been doing this, Dr. Hurst is, and Dr. Milius are the only ones that are still there. They've had several other, pathologists come and go, and they've got, two fairly new ones now. So I know that, several of the other rural counties have similar, I don't know if it was Wallowa that you were talking about, similar ways that they handle things. But there's not a lot of,
That's fine.
hey, what do you do? Just because time is of the essence, we usually, the first call is to our medical examiner physician and, talking, and it's like, hey, do this, hey, should we do that?
And this question is I'm just curious. It used to be medical, legal, death investigation. By them combining medical, legal with that O in between, I mean, is there some agenda there? I mean, what's the big
No
deal?
idea.
I just,
You're the politician,
Yeah.
you tell me.
I wouldn't have
They change
changed
the
it.
name of it every couple
The
of
more
years.
I know
the
that-
more there's a problem. with
Right, the
something.
deputy medical examiner, I know they moved away from that because medical examiner has a connotation out of a physician. So when we go out on scene and, and a lot of the, the sheriff's deputies are, they'll still be like, hey, the DME's here, and I'm like, DME, MDI,
Just curious,
yeah. But
especially when a name change and there's no real change. It's-
I have not heard why, other than, maybe Word Perfect doesn't like hyphenated.
In Nevada,
You guys weren't using word perfect?
they call them coroners.
Corners, and there are,
And
yeah, different
they're
states
law
have
enforcement.
coroner programs versus MDI programs, yeah, it's interesting, the training I took was through the St. Louis Medical, School. And that was interesting to hear a lot of the differences on the national level, different states have different.
I was just curious if there was some insight into that. Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't have a clue as to that background.
Thank
sorry.
you. That's all I had.
So the process going forward, are you gonna be speaking with the treasurer to kind of see how to move their budget, like what that will?
Yeah, I was just talking with the treasurer the other day. I'm gonna create, we can do it anytime. I could have done it the day after our budget was adopted, but I'm gonna create a working budget for next year's budget cycle and start so that we have something that we can start working in a little bit at a time
Okay,
for those kind of things where we have to move stuff around that's, decent moves. They're not just a quick number change or something. So I was talking with her the other day about creating that working budget that we could start working on some of that stuff and see what it was gonna look like to do it. So, and there's some other stuff with this year's budget that I wanna get a head start on too, so. No, it shouldn't be a big deal, but I'm not the one that does that part of it in the system, so I'll have to check with her.
okay. I think kind of the main thing today is we just wanted to kind of have it, move it towards that having it.
Yeah.
In its own little pool that Dawn can monitor and do the ordering and things like that out of it.
I will say at this time, barring any, I don't know what it would be, but until I consult with the treasurer, barring any major difficulties in doing that, you could definitely look for that to be in my proposed budget, probably.
So what do you need from me moving forward? What,
Well, what we'll need once we get to the budget cycle itself, and if we have moved all those line items out of the DA's office and into its own department, then I will schedule with you a budget preparation discussion on dollars and program and whatnot, and just like we would do with any other department.
But is there any authorization now that we could provide her to do this direct ordering and taking care of it in the immediate versus in the next budget cycle?
I'm gonna say at this point right now, since those numbers are contained in the DA's office, that would be internal with your department and your office manager to delegate. You know what line it is. I'm sure you've probably,
never seen the budget?
you haven't seen, okay.
Nope.
Well, we can get you a copy of the DA's budget and show you which lines are, relate to that program. And, you guys can work out an internal process for ordering or whatever and charging to that line or those lines and.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an easy fix for now, for going for the remainder of the year.
Thank you guys for your time today. Thanks, Holly, for getting us on.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you all. Thank you for
Thank you. Good to hear more.
your
And I'm
service.
available anytime, if y'all have questions. So,
Okay, let's, we don't have a real heavy agenda today, but you never know where discussion goes. Are you available after lunch today?
so like 1 o'clock?
Yeah, 1:30.
Okay.
Okay, if you are, let's have that conversation about the ME, and, because I'd like to get that appointed. It has further reaching effects than just legal criminal investigation issues, so I'd like to get that position or nominated anyway for appointment.
Right, in your office?
Yeah, please
Okay.
just stop by.
All right, well, there,
I don't think I have anything after lunch, so I should be. Yeah, anytime after lunch. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate what you do.
thank you.
Good seeing you
Um, next item on the agenda is opportunity for public comment.
Thank you, Don.
I think you're on our agenda, so we'll get to you in a moment. Public comment,
Oh, that's not your.
and anybody online, public comment? And not hearing any, we'll move on. No old business items, new business items, Oregon Youth Corps program. Sir,
Hi, I'm Tyson Whitney. I am the youth crew leader here for Harney County. I'm here again this year asking for your guys' support. Last year, you guys had asked if I could bring some youth in to kind of talk about how the program has helped them. Unfortunately, fortunately, they're in school right now, so I couldn't have them here. But I did have them write up some stuff, and I would like to read that to you guys today.
you bet.
Excellent. First up, we have Alyssa Thrall. She wrote, "Working at the OIC has been the best opportunity I've ever had to learn important life skills and give me better options for my future. I've not only learned how to build and repair fence as I was told, but I also learned how to maintain campgrounds, trails, and guzzlers. Guzzlers are the rain collection for the deer out in the forest. Not to mention, I've learned good work ethic while working in the field, and I've made amazing memories too. Plus, I've received my first aid, CPR, food safety, OSHA, and NCRC certificates while being employed at the OIC. OIC is personally the best job I've ever had, and I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to work here." Next up, we have April Lopez, and she wrote, "OIC has been a big part of my life, helping me gaining experience, learning new skills while growing my knowledge and giving me the opportunity to work with a team. OIC has given me opportunities that will benefit my future in many ways, like helping me get certified for first aid and CPR, food safety, NCRC, and OSHA training. Also teaching me how to fix fences, maintaining guzzlers, and keep good work ethic, while teaching me why the things we do in our job are important to environment and wildlife. Furthermore, I also love my job because of all the memories I make with the crew. We learn to work as a team and have fun while working hard. Honestly, wouldn't change this job for the world. I would like to say that the OIC has helped me grow as an individual and helped me make so many wonderful memories. That's why the OIC is the best job I've ever had.
Thank you for bringing
That's
those
all I
in and
said.
sharing.
Can I
with
keep
us.
those and put them on the public record?
You're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Pictures. I guess, any questions from you guys?
From hearing their statements, most of the work that's conducted is outdoor range type work, is that?
Yeah, we've worked with the Forest Service mainly and, getting back on, last year we got back on with the Wildlife Refuge and I'm actually gonna be reaching out to them here this month and get back out there with them.
Okay, trail maintenance, any of that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
we do all that. Everything that the Forest Service can basically throw at us, we do. I've done just about everything for them aside from fighting fire, so.
How many a year? How many employees, how many kids, how many, whatever? Yeah.
So, I mean, it depends. It goes back and forth. I have kids that stay and go. I mean, on average, probably 7 or 8. They go through my crew just in the school year program. The summer program, we have 12 plus sometimes. It just depends if they have programs going on. I have alternates coming on and other kids that just opportunity. I just feel as much as I can and get them out there, get as much experience and work ethic that I can get them. And give them all these certificates and push them to get it. They love doing that. I think that's really cool.
This was one of the things we funded back when Harney County had a Harney County Commission on Children and Families. And that program required a comprehensive plan and that fit into our youth. You know, we had children, we had families, we had older youth, we had juvenile crime prevention, you know, all these things that we funded in different ways with providers. And the OICC program was such a good program even back then. And that the commission usually funded it. And when the commissions on children and family were going away, because the Democrats didn't like it because too much local control. I'm sorry, but that's the only reason why it went away. We were able to, make sure that the fact that it was tied very much to our comprehensive plan, that, careful management, we have since 2011, when I left that job, have continued, we were able to put the money in the county budget and fenced it, so it wouldn't just disappear, and to keep this going for, 13 years now, and it's getting to the end, we're
Yeah.
almost out of the money. So I hope you all will be able to find funding to keep it going when that happens.
Yes, we're preparing for it. Mike was unfortunately not able to be here today. Had some other meetings yet to attend, but he wanted to thank you for that. He wanted to also let he knows that this is
Yeah,
it's getting close.
I mean,
to the end, but we appreciate
no,
big time what you guys have done for us.
it was a great, it was very easy to fund that program because of the outcomes were so good.
Recently, and I'm listening to the statements from these two crew members. I hear that there's the life skills part of it that are being developed in this and these experiences. Recently, I think it was last week's newspaper, our economic development director had an article on soft skills. Those interpersonal communication skills, those getting along with each other, those whatever skills that really may not always be as tangible as the hard skills, the technical skills that a person has in a position. But I see a lot of that in this teamwork and everything. So yeah, very, very important, very vital. I'm happy to hear that your crews are that big in the summertime. That's quite a crew to bring together. And then they're all different personalities and everything, I'm sure, so.
Because of the fires?
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, but it's probably one of my favorite parts. I mean, you can teach a kid how to use a hammer, yeah, but get them in there, that kid that doesn't want to talk, and by the end of the summer, they change. They can talk, communicate. Yeah, I need this, get this over here. And when they first started, And I love watching that change. That's probably one of my favorite parts of the whole program.
And I would presume or hope that maybe a crew member that's in for multiple years starts to develop leadership skills
Oh, yeah,
and,
I've had a few of them already,
Yeah.
and they're off into, one into the fire and all that stuff. It's a big door for them, and I love that.
yeah, well, that's very cool. So in this year's budget, we did appropriate, I think your normal, from the county contribution is $10,000.
It was not that. I think it was.
I think we're requesting 17,500 with 9,000. I got the whole breakdown if you would like.
Yeah, from the county, or,
I'm not sure, it's at the bottom there.
There was never an even 10,000, I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure.
think it
That's the
was.
only reason I'm speaking up. I don't know what you're told. It was 12,500 at some point in the past, years ago, and I don't know if it changed over time.
Unless you made
When
a
it-
mistake.
when it's gone,
on
it's
there.
gone.
Yeah.
I do know.
let me, if you'll excuse me, let me grab it just real quick, like.
Okay.
Favorite card. Just let me through this on the other doors.
Oh, Q-Lux.
Is there a name that it's on?
I don't. know. I'm put on down there, or something like that. I mean, that. It seems like that's what in the. Bill looks like he already knows what it is. Mhm.
Rick, you don't have it off the top of your head, huh?
No, I don't.
TV, oh no, okay. I was thinking of the
What's the
TV,
name of that fund?
TVCC.
The Children and Families Commission?
Yeah, it's,
It's page 139.
Well, I meant it was at the top of your page, I thought. 236. That's it.
236 in the budget. Man, that's. To fund 236. So I was thinking of the TVCC line. Is the one I was thinking of, but we'll look at 236 here.
It's my baby. Until it's gone.
Okay. So for this year, we have budgeted in materials and supplies, $25,000.
How much is left?
Ending fund balance is projected at 21,950, so. 2.5 more years worth at that amount that you have on there.
This year and
That's kind of what he figured.
Yeah. So, if it stays about the same, what was your total, 17 something?
17,500.
That should leave about $12,000, so 2.5 year, well, almost 3 years.
Almost.
Yeah. The last year would be about $12,000 left in 3 years from now.
Final, all right.
Okay, yeah. It's appropriated for that purpose.
Perfect.
Here.
Appreciate this annual visit and update with us on this, appreciate the letters and pictures.
I love being here.
I don't have anything else other than say thank you.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate your time.
thank you.
All right,
Have a great day.
have a
Thank you.
good day. Next topic is transit meeting. Angie Lamborn, meeting vote, says vote.
We have to
Yeah.
vote on it.
Yeah, so, the state transportation improvement funds.
Yeah.
You guys are the qualified entity, so you're the ones that it comes to come back to us to provide the service. So the state transportation funds are the state funds alone. And every biennium, the process is that the, committee, the transit committee, which is the notes that I provided you guys. I present to them the plan for those state funds. When those funds were originally, actually grown, it was to improve services. That was when we put in our deviated fixed route. We did some special, no fares for the preschool kids to get them to school. One of the big focuses is on youth. A few years back, we included the high school kids to be able to go to school functions with them. The last biennium, the committee voted to do, all youth from age 3 to age 19, just to catch the seniors if they were a little older, for school projects to not, the families not have a charge to get them. We also did some expansion of rides. If you bought a card, you got 25 rides for $20, so 5 free rides, things like that to help families with their budget. This coming biennium, we're not gonna, the plan is pretty much done all we can do with the budget that we have as far as anything new. So, the plan is to just call it operating and be able to do, if we have federal grants, it can be used for match, state dollars are used for match for those funds. And then just general operations, the fuel, all the things, the salaries and the maintenance and the vehicle maintenance, that kind of thing.
So when it says expand by 1 vehicle,
Yes, so we did, within some other funding, we applied to expand our fleet by 1 more vehicle. So, and I haven't heard if that was a fleet or not. Or maybe it was what I have, our fleet is changing out, so I'm losing track of what vehicles have been approved and what vehicles haven't, unless I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I haven't heard, it was put forward, was recommended to be funded,
Okay.
but I haven't heard back on whether or not it was approved or not.
Yeah, I was thinking that you and I thought that was the expansion one, yeah. So, but we've replaced the fleet of 6 in the fleet will be completely replaced by the time, probably the end of 2026, when the process goes all the way through. The vehicles are 2013s are now gone, and the 2016s are the ones that we're working on getting replaced. So they're 8 to 10 years.
I think I asked this question before, but when you surplus those vehicles, does that have to go back to the state or does it go towards purchasing of the next?
So if it's state dollars, it all stays with us when we surplus them, and it goes to specifically to purchasing, the match dollars for purchasing. If it's, with federal funds, anything over $5,000, there's a formula that we have to do, and we have to pay back a certain percentage of that to the federal transit and keep the rest. And it just depends on how much it sells forward. I have not had to do that yet, but I'm sure my time is coming. Hopefully we can surplus a little bit more.
so these meeting minutes, the transit committee meets, these were the things they talked about,
Right,
and then what do we do
and so then my request to you would be if you, approve or agree that the committee's findings that using these funds for operating expenses is appropriate use, then I would ask that you would vote, to approve the committee's recommendation. And then that would go into
Is there any reason why that's an unusual thing to spend it on? Okay.
I am curious in your minutes that it was mentioned that Grant County was receiving more. Did there, any information on that?
we haven't gotten any information yet, no, it was interesting, and I haven't looked into it, my transit manager was gonna look into it, and she hasn't at this point either, but we are curious to know why the formula is so much higher,
Yeah.
so.
you know, I mean,
because the formulas
we are
are
very similar in county.
yeah, in size, and then, so one is size, people, and the other side of the formula is, is wages. And I can't imagine there's more business and wages in Grant County, but,
What's the farthest out this program drives?
so our program, we go as far as like, we'll go to Bend, and we'll go to Boise. But the focus area is Harney County. Yeah, serving Harney County.
Within Harney County, is there anywhere they occasionally go within Harney County that's outside the Burns Hines area?
Yeah, when we've been known to pick up folks in, French Glen, Jersey. We go to Crane a lot, quite a bit, so.
Thank you.
So, our vote on the use of stiff funds then, and how much are we looking at there?
So we're looking at. About $215,000 a year. 313 is the estimate at this point. And it will depend obviously on what the changes to usually the payroll tax.
To be used for operations. Which, salaries,
Salaries, fuel, insurance, vehicle maintenance. Like our cell phone bills and stuff, because that's how they use tablets to do the scheduling.
okay. Will that cover all of your annual operation?
No, that is about not quite half. The other half is federal money, is 5310 and 5311. So, those funding plus the private, the medical rides all blend together to make the transit program.
These funds, the stiff funds in years past have been used for operational use as well.
They have, so the way it has been written is that expansion of like, special projects, like when we started the deviated fixed route. That route was called out as an expansion, or the cards, selling the cards, $20 for, 25 rides. Or the not charging fares to the kids for rides. Those were each, called out as special projects of expansion. But we're continuing all those services, but we just don't have capacity to expand beyond that to more. Which is why we're calling it just maintaining the services that we have.
Are there any gap areas that you're aware of? I mean, it seems like you do pretty good.
We're doing pretty good.
job.
You know, I mean, when we did the transit strategic plan, there was some talk about it sure be nice to have public transit later into the day. We go till 7 with the fixed route or deviated fixed route, but at this point, we just really can't. But as far as the kids and stuff, we're doing pretty good. We've got them all covered. So. And the seniors, of course, and the people with disabilities, all of our vehicles are, have lifts and that kind of thing. And so we're doing well with keeping those services as well.
Well, any other questions, comments? I will make a motion that, we authorize the use of, Harney County stiff funds for operational purposes within the transit program.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded to authorize the use of stiff funding for operational needs to continue and fund what current programs are being provided. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
and opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. The next topic is, I think, kind of a verbal policy or whatever, but discussion on minute approval policy. As far as what we as the governing body would like to move forward on our minute approvals. We've had a couple of times where we've had 4, 5, 6 sets of minutes that were backdated or not backdated, but backlogged for being approval tabled. So, where do we want to go with that? Do we want to make sure we have a full quorum every time to approve minutes, or if we don't have a full quorum, or we have a quorum, but we don't have a full court? Do we want to go ahead and approve minutes without the full court, or how do we want to move forward?
Yes, thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have, but this basically came about just to give you some reference, because things you guys do in this courtroom are really important, and other departments need those policies, those signed documents, resolutions, whatever they may be. And it's very hard to keep track of them and keep it organized between that department, the county clerk's office, like all of those different components. So when they're backed up like a month or more, like sometimes like the jail policy you guys had, that was time sensitive, but it messed up like the whole process to pull one thing out and not put it in. And this is just to keep better track of those documents for the record and for the other departments that need those documents.
Timely record keeping?
Yes.
But if we approve a document or a policy or something in county court, it was done, but the minutes of that meeting are a little bit delayed and approved, doesn't mean that, does it? Yeah, the action happened and was valid, it's just the
Sometimes they
minutes
need the
are.
minutes as a document.
I'm just curious, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, no, that's great to ask questions. What has been happening was that the document would get approved and it would get laserfished and then it would disappear and not find its way back to my desk because that department needed it or someone needed a copy of that. And then it's not part of the official record for the minutes.
What do you recommend?
Well, I've worked really hard with the county clerk office and we now have a system for everything to keep everything organized and in track. So each document gets its own Laserfish Commissioner Journal number, and then it's compiled as part of the packet. So when I turn it into the county clerk, they scan the individual document and then the minutes packet as a whole, so nothing is lost.
Oh, good. What would you like to see for helping from your point of view?
Just not having a backlog would be really helpful.
And then from our points of view, what are some of the challenges we all find in, I make it a priority just because I care about it, but it doesn't always, it's not always my highest priority either, and it takes a while to read it carefully. But I try to do it because you get it out pretty quickly now, which is very helpful. What do you think?
Did you hear that, Rob? Read the minutes.
Read them right away.
Yeah, I heard.
I guess, for timeliness, I would not want to see any minutes longer than 2 sessions. So this session minutes would need to be approved no later than the first meeting in December. Yeah, I guess, kind of keeps it from getting too far out and lost, Thanksgiving, whatever. That's a month basically to review and.
But I think sometimes we've had lengthy, hearings and other things that take a little longer to slog through and put it on your priority list, and you have a lot of other documents you read for other purposes.
I would
But it's just.
I would say, but for county court minutes though, because that's where our
That's a
votes and
little
our,
different, but sometimes those all get
yeah. Well, they should be
rolled in for approval, and so.
the priority is what I
The
guess what I'm
priority
saying
would
is
be
the
the
county
county
court. The public hearings, the work sessions where we're not making official decisions in. Those ones I guess can probably have a little bit longer time on the burner because there's not a document associated that we took action with. But I guess so,
Well,
if we
and a
wanna
lot of that's the
categorize them-
process. Now that you have a process with the clerk's office, it probably hasn't ever existed. It's probably gonna be much easier for the clerk to understand the nuance of that.
But I do think it's good if we can just, as best we can, make it a sooner priority than sometimes we do when we're overwhelmed with so much other.
I mean, at that point, you'd have 4 weeks to approve. minutes.
Does that work for you and your
Yeah, I
record keeping that basically, yeah, 4 weeks?
Let me ask something, if hypothetically, if we decide just having a quorum is enough to approve minutes at a county court meeting from previous stuff, but then that county court member who wasn't there after the fact says there's something that isn't correct in this and points it out, I mean, later, this hasn't really happened, but it is, minutes,
Revisited
they can be
back and forth.
revisited and
I don't
so,
see there's any reason why we couldn't revisit and amend if needed.
yeah, so
It has a process.
I'm comfortable with, I think, with, if there's at least 2 of us at a meeting, it's on the agenda to approve the minutes and there's been, enough time for us all to look at it, if we make it a priority or not. Then, and they haven't already contacted Holly with changes, then we should be able to approve them, so I look at it. What do you think? Is that all right?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so, I don't think we need to take any like official action there, just more for discussion and setting the future there. Community and Action Board appointment. Next topic on the agenda.
The Community in Action, when they were here giving us an update, mentioned that they would appreciate having an elected official on their board from Harney County, and we all received some of their documents, which include conflict of interest and, agreement and things like that. Jody Warnock, the director, replied to an email saying that they meet quarterly from our time, Pacific time, 10:30 to noon, the 3rd Thursday of March, June, September, December. And there is a Zoom option possible if you can't attend in person. And so that's what I know about it. I'm certainly willing to be appointed if you all think that's appropriate. I checked my schedule. I don't have any recurring meetings at that time. I do have a background in the social services stuff, and I'm active in the Health and Human Services Steering Committee at AOC, et cetera. So your call.
Myself, as usual, my plate's pretty full, and as far as other boards and what, I just was asked to be the chair for the GEODC
Oh,
board.
okay.
So picking up some more work there. It shouldn't be too much, but anyway. So, if one Rob, you're coming up into the chair here in a couple months. Do you have any experience or working with Community in Action or these types of entities? Mr. Frank, sorry.
No, Rob is fine. I don't have experience working with the Community in Action. That last meeting when they came and did the presentation was the first I've heard of them, and so I'd have some to learn. If Commissioner Doro feels comfortable in that position, then that's fine with me. But as I shared with Judge Hart, and I'll tell all of you, as the new guy coming on, if there are any jobs or positions where you think I need to be, I'll do, especially just getting started. You put me where you need me and I'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, if you're willing to take on this role, Commissioner Doro, I would nominate you.
I'd second that.
I'll give you this. Did you have that packet then that has the
I
questionnaire and stuff?
do, I
Okay.
do. Again, if there's, I will keep you all apprised during general deliberations or as an agenda item whenever there's something that you need to know about, or if we need to weigh in on it, and, we'll see how it goes. Thank you.
Can we, again, I don't know how, I don't know where these lines draw, but whether we need an actual motion or not, but just to cover bases, I'll make a motion to nominate Commissioner Doro as the county elected official representative to the Community and Action Board.
Second,
And so a motion has been made and seconded to nominate and appoint Commissioner Doro as the elected county governing body representative to the Community and Action Board. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Aye. And motion carries, just for formality's sakes, I guess. So can we add that then to want to work with the web designer or web site designer administrator on adding that?
I'll create a page and get it to Holly, or I usually can just send it to Cindy.
Yeah, either one, either way,
Okay.
just so that it's captured and people know.
Well, first,
Doing-
let me see if they approve me.
And then a discussion on board and committee appointments. Next topic on the agenda. We need to, it's 1st of November now, we need to get some advertising going, recruitment going for the vacancies. Have we consolidated a list of all coming up vacancies?
We could sit down and go over it again, but I've given her what they've had, not very long ago, so.
I just, there's quite a lot of boards and committees, so I don't know which ones you'd like me to keep track of. And it's, would be really awesome if
Maybe this afternoon, pick out the ones that are up in this round.
I would like to try and get some of these appointments made. I need to get with the city of Burns and Hines on SEAC. And, sure Paul has, stepped up for the at-large position.
Does it require city support as well, or?
There's, what are those ones that the city usually attended? What's the, I don't recall what the title or what the,
City,
it's like a local representative or something, isn't that?
yeah, the Burns City Manager is named as a person, but the city administrator for Hines is not. It's an at-large position. And then there was a business, or I don't know what they call Judy's at-large spot that Judy had. And your position is mentioned by name. Then there's an at-large, and then there's an extra that I filled in for when anybody was not, then I was allowed to vote and participate.
So an alternative position.
Yeah, I forgot the actual name, but it's not an at-large, it's another entitled position.
Mm.
And it was, before I filled it, he said it was vacant for 5 or 6 years. They haven't been searched out anymore. So.
So that one,
The county judge, city manager, two semi-at-large.
Business associated, is that what you? said?
Well, the one that Judy had, they called her a business rep, which I don't know why they would do that. But
and it might be beneficial to keep Burns on there in some role with them owning the airport. Because
Well-
they're,
that's why I think the city manager is named as a position. But the city administrator for Burton or Hines is not.
yeah, and I didn't know if they were like sharing that between the two of them, so if they were gonna rotate or anything, but. I'll give the Hines City Administrator a call and see if they'd like to be just a regular member, appointed member.
They should be.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'd like to, if we could, try to advertise and recruit, phone calls, whatever, for whatever we have vacant. And try to make those appointments by, well, some of them, like our SEAC, has to be done in this next meeting into the month. But other ones, if we could wrap it all up and do it in our first
Or are
January.
you gonna put out a
The
big,
SEAC is just
All the
for
appointments?
the at-large ones that we'll be putting forward, or,
There's at least 2 appointments that we need to make on SEAC, well, 3.
so prior to your 21st, or not 21st now, but that needs to be done prior to that meeting, is what you're
But
doing.
yeah, whenever it is, because we're supposed to put those forward at that.
At that
meeting.
meeting, okay.
Yeah, and that one's obviously on me, so I'll reach out and get that one filled, try to get those filled.
at our last county court meeting, did we talk about, once we go through these committees, knowing all the appointments we need to make for the various committees and putting out a very large Facebook post, newspaper article? Did we say that or not?
Well, that's what we talked about. That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to get it all in one advertisement so that we're not doing multiple advertisements and cost more money.
So are we gonna just have an informal session as needed with Holly to get her the information today or in the afternoon?
Whatever you guys wanna do.
Yes, if,
I'll be able to give you all my stuff is up to date possibly after the library appointment today and a couple of verbiage, so.
but my hope would be that whatever we have appointments for and we get the dates. Get established what the current term dates are for each individual, that every year then it'll just identify itself. But, once
Yeah.
we have all that identified as to who's in the chair, what their term date is, and it'll identify itself as to who we need to advertise for
Right.
each year.
I don't know, that would be great. It can be done if information is provided to.
I was looking at some old minutes the other day, all the way back to Judge Grasty. And they talked about collecting all the board member positions and the term dates and everything, so it's
It's
And
never,
ongoing
it's never been institutionalized at the administrative desk in a way that worked before.
Yeah.
And people don't keep up with it sometimes and then it just.
And I-
just fails.
the easiest way of memorializing it, outside of any resolutions or motions or whatever in the agendas, is the website to show who's appointed in the chair and what their term date is on the website. So,
Well, it's kind of having, because I'm noticing this, library position talks about, a June one, and so there's certain ones that are July, there's certain ones that are June. So kind of, if they're mostly set within
And
those
some are
two
January.
parameters. Or June, not June, sorry, I meant January.
Oh, well,
Okay, June 30th,
yeah,
are most of the end dates on terms generally. And so it kind of,
but
2 months prior to January and then 2 months prior to July, we kind of prioritize looking over those. That would give us plenty of time to,
unless
Get those
there's
motions.
some kind of statutory guidance that says a board terms will be from July 1 to June, on the fiscal year. I don't know why we couldn't just change dates to encompass and make everything on January.
I don't
well,
think
NRAC
that's-
was set up with July.
It's
uh,
good
when
to
it
have-
was put in with its bylaws, and I don't know why that was chosen that way.
I think the month of December is not a good month for recruiting people in general because of the holidays and everything. And then in November, you might not catch people. So if you have them as they are, I don't think that's a problem. I think if you've got a good Excel spreadsheet that is a tickler where you could just sort by the dates and twice a year put out the announcements. And even if someone is going to be reappointed, seeking to be reappointed, they're allowed to be reappointed, that's great, but we're still supposed to notice a term that is
Yeah.
expiring so
Yeah.
that new people can come forward just in case. And that doesn't happen all the time. I know. It just doesn't.
That's fine. Just trying to streamline things and make sure, try
I
to
don't
make
do
things
it all,
as most
just
efficient as
once,
possible.
once all year for everyone. I think we get fewer takers. Just because that's busy time of year.
And it might spread out. You go after this many folks, another time you.
We can't catch them all with one road.
Well, we'll continue with that then. We won't make any changes there. All right, so, boards and committee appointments will continue on that project and get those captured and identified as to what positions need to be bulletined and what time of the year, et cetera. I have a agenda item for Kate Cunningham, second term. Who's that?
She is on the library advisory board and, her
Was she planning
term
on being here
technically,
today?
I'm surprised Cheryl isn't here. I don't know.
Did they know that this was on the agenda?
I spoke with her about it and that email is stuff.
She is already serving. Her term expired in June apparently, and they just realized it, and, the board did vote at their last meeting because she's willing to continue to serve. They're gonna have two people, terming out in June of 2025 that have been members who have had repeated terms and now they're termed out.
How many terms has she run or has she served?
She's only served one so far.
Cause I think
It's,
if I remember right, the library, the
4-year.
statute for the library is 2 consecutive terms and then they have to sit out a year before they can come back again.
And, yeah, no, she's not one of the ones she's only had one term so far. They're 4-year terms and she is a good member.
Was this position advertising?
That I don't know.
I don't remember seeing any advertisement for it.
Not that I'm aware
Public
of.
Library being,
So if
you know, a sought after entity in the public lately, I would hate for us to not have it.
Well, I think we should do it for all, not just the library. If you all wanna delay that and have that unfilled until it's been advertised in another opportunity, that's your
Especially where
call.
we're right in the middle of putting things out for advertisement, I would think that they should at least publicly notice it as a.
I think they should all be publicly noticed, not just the committee itself reaches out to people, but the community at large is aware there's an opening, you know? I just think it's. a
I
good
would
practice.
prefer to bulletin it, make it a part of our bulletin that we're getting ready to put out.
Okay, so, we'll let them know, or
Yeah,
nothing against her, just
Yeah.
one bulletin
Yeah,
appropriately
we're right in
retained.
the middle of doing that and we don't know that it was, fully advertised at any time, so.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it. Not that I catch everything, but.
So they're all in June. So they'd be like the NRAC or July 1.
All right.
So that's two that are
These
on that cycle. It's the timeline.
And you know, these are really good people, but many of them have served so long. And I think part of it is, it's not well advertised the way it should be in case someone ever was like, oh, that might be something I'd like to serve on. Have been a couple of people since that public hearing we had. The first one, who have shown up to the meetings and listened in. And so, after tonight, there may be a lot more people who, you know,
Would like to
may
be
throw their hat.
considered.
Yeah, that's all. It's, but they're gonna need some new people when a couple expire next year for sure.
so would be my preference to hold off on making that appointment until we have a chance to advertise it. And probably maybe by the end of December appoint, if we can get a bulletin for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, they are short of quorum.
Most people show up for that. We'll I'll hear someone, make sure they're aware of that decision. Thank you.
So next topic is correspondence. And I have a couple of things in here from Oregon, from Representative Mark Owens. Topic is, Arnie Soil and Water Conservation District.
Yeah, I had Holly go ahead and include this. As you all know, that the state had allocated funds for 5 counties to set up programs for grasshopper and cricket control. This is a letter that, our local soil and water conservation district, who were the entity that helped the county set up that program, sent, and I have been, continuing to work with them, as we're trying to figure out the best process for the state to allow us to continue with these type of local opportunities, to have programs that are unique to our county. Ours was, I talked to Casey Prentice, who works for Oregon Department of Ag, who's our person in this region that we deal with. And he said ours was one of the most successful programs that was set up and implemented, and that we fully expended our funds. We even have an additional ask of $7,000 that they're indicating they're gonna fulfill as well. There was multiple counties that turned funds back, never got their program set up, did not have a
Really?
set cost share associated with them,
Wow.
which is part of the nuance that
What a shame.
we warned them about. And so, you know, this can be a real opportunity for counties with some stable funding. And so we're really trying to work with our legislators to have an opportunity for the legislature to put in stabilized funding through the ODA. And then every county will look different. You know, we have an excellent soil and water conservation district. He's very capable and has the staff to stand these type of programs up and implement them and understand the process and the reporting. So kudos to them for, you know, just how well they do their jobs and interact with all these different programs that get thrown at them. You know, this one literally just got thrown in our laps and we picked it up and ran with it. And so, you know, this letter's just trying to, you know, request that they continue to look at these opportunities for counties to have this. You know, if we're looking at the cricket encroachment, especially on the south end of the county, having stabilized funding to continue to target those crickets is going to be essential to keep them from migrating to where we are. You know, they've migrated from Nevada into the south end of the county. They're in Mount Airy County, and we've seen them. I think they said they're, you know, clear up past the Staines now as of this last year, and so, you know, it's going to be very pertinent that those kind of insects are kept a sharp eye on. Some of the funding associated with this ask also goes with the program side of it, where they send out surveyors that are devoted to your county to go out and do early surveying so they know where the work should occur and work with landowners. And then these county programs help make, when the treatment of that is available, to be a very quick process, because the surveying's already occurred. It's already been put into the database of the ODA that there's a problem there. And so the treatment can happen quite quickly once that surveying has already occurred. And so there's kind of some moving parts on the ODA side that Casey does a great job of, you know, getting those surveyors out and doing good work, making sure that that information stays very timely, as the hatches actually occur kind of in different stages. And so he's really understands how to target his surveyors for the work and where the work needs to occur and when, due to the different hatching stages that do go on. And so, just as a matter of note, Lauren Henderson retired at the end of September with the ODA. And so there is a new director there that we're working with currently for this ask. And so hopefully in the budget of the ODA, that there will be a prioritization for this type of funding to occur at a more sustained level. So, you know, as we move into the long session, that's something that we're going to need to make sure to support and continue to write these type of letters and work with, you know, our legislators to make sure that these opportunities continue into the future. This was an excellent opportunity, but.
So do you have, moving forward, as you leave office, is there anything, this program or any other program, documentation that you can lead for us on this. Letters, if it didn't get archived, any letters or something that you might have sent or anything that we can archive and use as reference to?
Yeah, a lot of that is stuff that Soil and Water Conservation I've sent in conjunction with each other, emails and that, and so a lot of it is documented through signed grant applications with the ODA, and so a lot of that is I'll check with Holly to
It's
make sure it
Been
was
captured in
captured and that it's searchable, we'll call it. Cause if it isn't, we can go ahead and make sure that it's documented in a way that's very searchable, but, obviously ODA has all those records as well. So
You might wanna work with the county clerk, they're the ones who upload all of those and organize them and those are things.
okay, so that's been, you know, like, any of our WOLF program, this program all run through the ODA, so the state agency also has copies of all that.
Next, letter we have is from Oregon, Department of Land Conservation and Development. It's in regards to sage grouse maps and the revised or amended maps. This is an ongoing project or whatever. It goes all the way back almost to 2011, 2015, when it was decided to manage the habitat for sage grouse and help prevent ultimately keeping the sage grouse off the listed endangered species list. So they, after several years of studying, monitoring, they've identified other areas with Lex. They've identified areas where they had previously identified Lex that aren't there. So they amended the map and the borders of it. And as a part of this, we are responsible to notify landowners, affected landowners, which I contacted our GIS staff to get the actual shape file that would overlay with tax lots and identify who those affected landowners would be. And then we have to send out notice to those landowners.
But the notice does not come from the state, it comes from the county.
Yeah, find the exact quote here.
Because OD,
In turn, you are required to notify affected property owners at least 45 days before the hearing on this matter, which is scheduled for January 23rd, which was a little short notice in getting this and then trying to get a 45-day notice in as well. The department has prepared maps showing the affected properties whose owners you must notice. So I got the shape file from Fish and Wildlife and our GIS specialist, Bryce. Correlated those to the tax lots. And then I asked planning to send those letters out. So I'll follow up on it, but they should have been drafted and sent out.
Notice, my land is affected worse always, but so be it. They can find them on that.
well, and some of their acknowledgement of these Lex are trying to connect habitats and that for them, and so depending on the type of monitoring that's gone on in the area, some of it might be drawn into the map, but what it does is if you develop that land in any way, then there's certain parameters that occur, and so if you're not planning on developing it, you're on the map, but if you are planning on developing it, that's the key to understanding this map and how that development could be affected.
And did the fires, or the aftermath of the fires having much effect on the sage grouse?
I haven't heard anything yet.
I haven't heard anything.
I mean,
And sagebrush habitat, but
I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything along those lines yet. I don't know. Not to say it's not or it didn't, but I haven't heard anything. That's all I have for correspondence. Meeting schedule. just as a reminder, our regular county court session from 11:20 has been rescheduled to November 18th. Result of all of us attending or not being available during the week of the AOC annual conference. And then I also wanted to, and I think it's good to start looking at it as early as we can. January 1st, obviously holiday, falls on the first Wednesday of January. This year. So move it to the second Thursday is what I would propose,
When's the swearing in? The sixth?
the 6th.
Monday.
Sixth, okay.
I think the second is fine. I don't think.
We plan on the 2nd.
Might be driving someone to an airport in Boise or not, I don't know yet, but. Can zoom in.
Yeah, I don't know what my all do looks like.
Or do we want to push it to the following
I
week?
think
And
the kids are still on break at that point.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Or do we want to push it to the next week on the 8th? Which would encompass Commissioner-elect Frank is already being sworn in.
Yeah, that might be more fluid.
Do you have anything that's gotta be done prior to the 8th usually?
No, just our annual appointments, budget officer and all the annual things that have to be done by resolution, but there's no urgency that has to be done on the first, holiday anyway, so.
That should be fine. So that would be swearing in on the 6th and the county court meeting on the 8th, probably.
Okay, so we will, Wednesday, the 1st being the first Wednesday of the month in January would be a holiday, so we'll change that county court session to the 8th. Commissioner-elect Frank, does that sound good to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then, other meetings, we have the BIC on what was it? Wrong calendar.
Friday the 15th of November, 10 to 3.
I have that on my schedule.
That'll be helpful.
Thank you for
Here.
Yeah, I
RSVP for-
RSVP for the two of us this morning to Dr. Costello, but I never did see.
And I CC'd you on an email. I haven't seen that he's responded to it. I haven't checked my email yet.
He hasn't responded yet.
Okay. I'll keep hounding.
Were you able to do do you have to do extra things because the meeting's here? Do you need?
No. That's why we let the courses.
Amen, sister.
So I have,
Their tech works this time.
and I don't know if anybody else received invites or not, but I have, an invite for tomorrow to meet with, EOU President Kelly Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna try to attend.
Okay.
Try to drive.
Yeah, we all got that.
Okay. I was gonna ask if you wanted anything passed along, but if you'll be there, no.
There is a Southeast Oregon RAC meeting, November 19th through the 20th, that'll be held here in Harney County. Pull up the location quick.
We'll be at the AOC conference and we'll be going to that. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you coming to the conference? Or did the last I'd heard it? you-
No,
she's going to the
I
RAC.
have this RAC meeting that
Okay.
same week, which it's always in Burns, and then that meeting's over there, and
No, that's fine. The last time we had spoke, you
Yeah.
hadn't intended on going to the AOC meeting.
no, and then with this, it's more of a priority to get this for me. Pull up the PDF, maybe it's this location. So it'll be at the Burns BLM district office.
What day?
Then November 19th, through the 20th. And there are positions open. This was, one of those where, we don't appoint those positions, but they are available for the public to apply for, their federal positions. And so there's nominations opening for 2 category 1 positions, 3 in category 2, and 3 in category 3. In category 1 are representatives of organizations associated with energy, mineral development, federal grazing permit holders, the timber industry, transportation or right of ways. I'll send this to you in an email. Right of ways, off highway vehicle users and commercial and developed outdoor recreation are category 1. And there's 2 of those positions open. Category 2 are representatives of archaeology and historical organizations, dispersed recreation users, wild horse and burrow organizations, and nationally or regionally recognized environmental organizations. There's 3 of those that are open, and then the category 3 are representatives of state, county, or locally elected officials. Indian tribes located within or adjacent to the area which the RAC is organized, and academia is employed in natural resource management or natural sciences. Employees of state agencies responsible for management of natural resources and the public at large.
Now, are you able to retain your seat?
No, because I was category 3 as an elected official, so I have notified her that I am leaving office, and I have sent this information to Mr. Frank, but it can be more than one person that's interested in it. Obviously, I actually feel the Southeast Oregon RAC position is a very essential one for us to have local representation on. It affects Malheur, Harney and Lake, BLM districts. We discuss a lot of really important issues.
How often do they meet?
Oh, I don't know, it's every couple months. Sometimes if they don't have much on the agenda, we haven't had a meeting, so it kind of depends on what's on everybody's plate and which area is doing what. So it's kind of been a little bit of a wonky meeting schedule, and then like with the Lake County plan coming up, we had extra meetings, and so it's varied a little since I've been on it, to be honest. And then the problem becomes is if the RAC is going to make any specific advice back to the BLM, if there's not a quorum in each category, then you cannot provide as a RAC comment back to them. And so having enough people filling these positions and having forms in each category show up to the meetings is really important, as I've learned along the way in this process. And so that's something, to kind of flag, not just the category 3 folks that this office would apply to, but looking at some of these others and potentially encouraging some folks. That way, the nominations do close on the 15th, but it's a very simple nomination process. And it's been publicly advertised. It's on the Federal Registry. This isn't necessarily news to anyone, but
We see if Commissioner like Rob wants to be nominated.
well, and it's called nominated, but what you do is you fill in the application and then you send in 2 letters of recommendation.
I've written recommendations for people in the past.
When is the deadline
The
for the
15th
years
of November.
of November is the nomination deadline?
And they, like I say, this has been advertised in the Federal Registry for quite some time.
I wonder if,
Commissioner-elect Frank, are you,
it'd be great to have,
It does take a process, like even once you put in your application. I think mine took over 6 months before you finally through the federal process. Hear
before
back
the
from them.
appointment is official and everything?
Depending on what's going on at the federal level, it can be longer than that, I've heard. So, 6 months I've heard was actually not too bad, so.
Well, it'd be nice to have a county court perspective there.
But, you know, whether you have, someone sitting on these racks or not, I think, keeping tabs on what the Southeast Oregon Rack does regardless, for Harney County is.
You know,
Is
there
it part of
was
the
a really great email put out by a member of the RAC, I believe, Michael Fox.
Mm.
You know I got it. I don't know if he sent to a lot of people, and he, before one of the recent meetings saying they're finally gonna be looking at some language that was done back during, you know, right when COVID started. And we weren't having quorums for a long, long time to now there's a little difference in some language, you know, can you look it over and provide input, ranchers, people, you know, whatever he was representing, he was trying to get input from the people he represented, which I thought was awesome. I hadn't seen that before. I don't know who, it was on a day I couldn't attend. I had some thoughts, but I was kind of jumping into it cold. It wasn't something I've been working on or anything. Did you ever see that? I just thought that was awesome because I'm sure these people do a good job, but you know,
He's in a different category than I am, so he didn't
Right.
reach out to me.
Okay.
It's
Right.
kind of interesting with the different categories
I mean-
and then who you.
I mean, he made
correlate
an
with.
effort to say, I'm trying to represent you kind of folks and
Whether it's a special user interest group or elected
Yeah.
group or whatever.
And depending on the topic, some of the other categories will reach out to you, sometimes they won't.
Well,
James Williams from Lake County also serves on it, so he and I, visited more so about this. Now there's a commissioner a former commissioner actually from, Malheur County visits on that.
I remember hearing, I think from Mr. Fox as well, that at some point, whether it was on their agenda or not, it might have been, they were talking about the dark sky stuff. And he was asking me questions about it. He said, boy, at the last meeting, you know, this individual who was on the rack was really not pleased and talking about all this stuff. And I said, that individual, and I know who she is, has never contacted us, never picked up the phone, never, you know I hear all this. I said, we're open book. You know, if anybody wants to come talk to us, please do.
Rob, would you accept our nomination to fill this seat on the Southeast Oregon RAC?
Absolutely. I was just reviewing that email that Commissioner Shellman sent and looking into the process of how to go about that and brainstorming who to have some letters of recommendation written from. So yeah, I will try to complete that process before the 15th.
Great, thank you. So just out of curiosity, I mean, I think it's good to have somebody from our governing body on the RAC to have that voice. But how then can we integrate potentially our own NRAC? Is there a way or
I mean, anybody from the NRAC could apply to some of this, either federal grazing permit holders, timber industry, it's very similar. A lot of it just comes down to a capacity issue for folks, so it's, even someone like yourself that really enjoys recreation can go ahead and apply. Not as an elected official, but as.
Yeah, in a different
interested in
category.
recreation issues.
Because
Which category was
Rex does recreation, doesn't he?
But
Because he
he's
was-
on this,
Oh, a different one.
Scenes rack.
Dean's Rack,
Yeah.
okay.
So you have, off-highway vehicle users, developed outdoor recreation is category 1.
is that category 1 for off-highway?
Off-highway vehicle users.
I may do that.
And then you have dispersed recreation users, which I'm not exactly familiar with that. That's backpackers.
Is that all category 1?
That's category 2, which I would think that's more backpacking, but.
Okay.
If we kind of want to
Can
keep
you-
a more of a pulse, I can send this to.
Can you-
all-
Is
all
there a
the-
category you would fit in besides the elected official? With all your experience, it'd be great if you could stay on the rack in a different category yourself, if you want to.
Potentially,
Dispersed recreation, think about that. I bet they don't get a lot of.
yeah,
Maybe they
that's
do.
horseback riding, that'd be good.
All right, there you go.
I ride on a little chunk of Dale and Book Creek, that's as close as I get to recreating on it.
She rides and disperses the.
I don't recall if I've mentioned it in county court before or not, but there is a Senate bill in the US Senate for designation of wilderness area in the Owyhee Canyon lands.
You have mentioned.
I have, okay. It's something I'm pretty fervently against, and if a role in this would be a voice. I mean, honestly, that comes from congressional decisions and not probably from the local BLM or whatever, but even if it's not a wilderness area, but a national monument that ends up getting created by the presidential designation under Antiquities Act, then they have to do a management plan, and I would think maybe the RAC might have more voice in the
That's where
management
they
plan.
intersect, is when it gets to management plan level. You can, if there's agreements within your category, that can move forward as an official comment back to the BLM. If there's not, then the parties that agree can individually give comment back. But if you can ever get categories within this RAC to provide the comments, it's a stronger voice. And so this is something that Jeff Rose actually asked me to apply for a couple of years ago. And then, like I said, then it took 6 months to actually get it. So I have not been on it that long, but in the time I have been intersecting with it, I do feel like it's a very important one to keep tabs on and make sure that we're keeping in contact with and participating in. They have meetings, throughout the LAC area. And so, we're one of those areas, but
They rotate the
they
meeting.
rotate the meetings.
Is, I would imagine there's at times extensive reading between meetings.
Yeah,
Just wanted to know.
no good meeting goes without a lot of reading.
And those EAs and EISs and all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff are,
Stuff where you really gotta, love to dig into understanding federal terminology that has nuances between agencies, between the Forest Service language and the BLM language. I think you could spend a lifetime trying to understand it all.
okay, if you'll share that, just so we can, Commissioner-elect Frank and I can see what we need to do.
Like say, if you know other folks, like say Jeff was the one that reached out to me originally when he was the district manager and asked me to try to participate on it. There is a new district manager, as you all know. At this
Did they
point.
Make an official, is he interim or is it official?
I thought he was official now, but
I hadn't
don't
heard.
quote me on that one. I met him during the fire stuff.
Is the same gentleman then? Cause I met him during the fire too. Yeah, but he was interim at that time.
Yeah, I thought that
He was
supposed to be
acting.
more than interim when I talked to him. Probably on their website.
Any other meetings?
Yeah. This water planning meeting. We send out multiple meeting invites on different days, so I gotta figure out which one's correct. November 19th also, from 3 to 7,
And that is what?
the community-based water planning. Reviewing the surface water plan.
We're getting close to the.
It is inching along. There's still a lot of language around, some of the water rights stuff, is concerning.
I like that they send the track changes in clean. That's helpful.
it is,
For people that.
helpful trying to figure out where people are trying to steer the edits.
Absolutely. That was the first thing I did as a as a new commissioner was asked the, Forest Service on the plan. I said, can you send out the track changes between these drafts? And they had me kick it up bureaucracy, and basically they just kept passing the buck saying no. That's like lack of transparency in government, like.
And then just to note that the fair board meeting had been moved to the 11th.
I was gonna ask, confirm that,
at
that's
6
holiday.
p.m.
That's Veterans
Oh,
Day.
it
My,
is,
my
isn't it?
husband, I mean, I won't be going.
So,
I did not.
We have an
I was
obligation.
wondering if that
We have
was
an obligation.
intentional or if not.
Yeah,
On anybody's radar. No,
just shoot. Will they make it Zoom or record the Zoom so that we can listen to it or something? I mean, this is just,
Yeah, I
the
didn't know.
technology is there.
So I didn't know if
I
that,
did not know that that was a holiday. I don't pay attention to that.
I do.
Okay, now I do. It's on my,
I was gonna send an email, just say I won't be there.
let me visit with them and see if we want to hold that date due to it being a holiday. I will get back to you this afternoon. on that and
Okay.
See if there's a presence that was not on anybody's radar when we
Did-
accept that.
did NREC
We were
meet
just
last-
going from one Monday to the next.
Yeah, I figured that, but and I said, but they didn't realize that's holiday.
No.
And so I didn't know if it was intentional and we're gonna hold it that day or not.
What is the 18th of like a third month?
We got county, Hill, no, we're driving
You guys
separately
are
to.
going to.
Yeah,
Separately, we'll
that-
be driving to Eugene that day.
Okay, let me see what day we could find for a quorum, that might potentially be sometime within that day we could get a quorum.
Like I say, if they can record it, we can play it back.
Yeah, and we'll do that, especially where we're gonna do the updated presentation.
And then did NREC meet last night?
No, we're obligated to meet quarterly, and right now I haven't had a lot of folks during hunting season that have any interest in meeting. It's always been a tough month to try to get anything going.
I noticed I was here working on other stuff, but I went down about that time and I heard a lot of young voices,
4-Hers.
4-Hers. So I was just kind of concerned that if 4-H, whoever is not coordinating on the scheduling of that room down there.
Yeah, and I think we put it in as a long-standing hold originally, but
Holly, are you in charge of the scheduling?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It might be a matter that 4-H needs to make sure that it's, because otherwise, if we would have met, there would have been conflict.
yeah.
For the record, it is under the NRAC.
Yeah, that's what I thought, that we have it as a long-standing.
So I'll reach out to 4-H and make sure that they.
Check
There
this.
are other people that use that room, so they. One last thing I was thinking about,
The December meeting is actually on my radar to try to hold with them, just to kind of circle back around and do a little handing off if he's planning on taking that on. That could be a discussion
When
with
would
this
that-
body of
when
what
would
that
that
be.
be?
It's the first Tuesday of the month.
last time and I forgot to mention it when we were talking about board members earlier, but the last time we had talked about board members. How's the fair looking at adding a board position?
So they were looking at, trying to add some capacity on some of the sponsorship marketing side that Jessica Smith's currently been doing as a fair court advisor. And what they were considering is trying to decide whether that would be more appropriate as an actual fair board position due to the level of work that she's doing. Or if it may. The fair court is not obligated to do that. She, because of her talents in marketing and that, has done an outstanding job. And brought a lot of, skills and knowledge to the table. She's, organized that. So they were kind of looking at, if they were to advertise for that marketing side, she would potentially separate from the fair court advisor, because you're not always going to have the same person have interest in taking on both roles. And so they're trying to think ahead, it's one of those, you never know how long a fair court advisor will want to remain in that role. And a fair court advisor has been kind of one of those nuances where they're not, I don't know.
It depends on how
It
active
depends
she's just far
on the
more active
person.
than
Really
someone once
depends
we've
on the
had in the
person.
past.
Yeah. And so they were just having, conversations around that. Like I said, I was not in attendance at that meeting. And then I thought we were gonna meet on the floor.
So at this point, it was a discussion, not an actual recruitment.
Well, I think that they were thinking about recruiting, but by not having the fourth meeting to sit down with them and go over like, where are we on this? I'll try to circle back around, but
Okay.
I've not intersected with some of those folks to understand just how really it's a change in their bylaws if they're going to add one more position versus the 5 that are currently there, and then trying to have it be someone that would take on that marketing and sponsorship side that's so essential and important. And not just kind of having it undesignated as it has been in the past.
Okay.
'Cause it's been very successful with having someone really honed in and tasked to that. Much more successful.
Any other meetings?
I just have a bunch of,
Is the 911 met lately or anything?
No, it's only required quarterly, and we let the contract with Motorola. So they're, whatever pre-work that they can do with that, they're engaged in that, but it hasn't come back up to the 911 committee itself. The sheriff is the chair of that right now, so.
next week, that, a bunch of mostly Zoom meetings that I do. Some are at the NACO, whether it's the NACO, Justice Public Safety, Veterans, Rural Action Caucus, they all have stuff going on. The, local health partnership that I'm on is next week, as is the regional CAC. I have not attended this before, but I at least did register to Zoom in. That's the CCO Advisory Committee for the region of 12 counties, of which we're one. So you get your local health partnership CCO meeting, and then I'm one of the 2 appointed from Harney County for that. OHA stuff, basically. Integrated Water Resources Strategy Priorities has a Zoom on the 12th,
Oh, I probably.
2 to 4. Oh, do you have a division 512 on the 13th?
Yes, it keeps coming up and I
What-
save the date.
What time is that? I'd like to zoom in, but I usually can't.
It is 8 to 3,
Ew, that's why I don't.
and then there's,
Is that here in
yeah,
person? And then, the week after that is, AOC conference. And Thanksgiving week looks calm and quiet, so that's good. For me.
let's see if there's a legal stakeholder meeting as well, then they.
I'm gonna, while you're looking for that, but I'm gonna move along real quick, like the next topic under general deliberation is our ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds. It was my understanding when I took office, I thought because we were the lowest amount that we got, that there was no time limit on expending those funds. I have since learned that they have to be obligated spent or obligated by the end of this year, December 31st. We have, I don't know the exact, but it's a little over $500,000 in that fund. I'm trying to do some research on what's allowable expenditures for it, public safety, health, broadband, and general services, general governmental services are 4 broad categories or whatever. I've got a couple of ideas. I don't want to turn any money back to the federal government. I hate to be rushed in in spending that. I think our goals initially were to use it towards the jail, but we can't obligate it and guarantee that it's gonna be used.
I don't know that our goal with those funds were necessarily towards the jail in our original conversations.
I thought that's what we had
We
thought
knew that we
about.
had a fairgrounds project coming up that might need some support. That
We
was
did
one
some
that we
broadband,
discussed.
we did. We
There was
didn't really use it.
broadband.
Some of the money did not go for strategic purposes, we went to reward certain employees. during COVID
APHIS.
and stuff, and
APHIS was one of those that we used to stand up as one of those, county services piece.
I think we need to be
Under
strategic
that.
to just obligate it. you know.
Okay. I would like to look at, and it goes somewhat towards broadband. And it goes somewhat towards, economic development, which I think is another one of the categories. About looking at buying the, lottery website building. Where my wave is housed at right
The
now,
archive building.
the archive building.
Yeah.
Um,
It belongs to the state,
it
right?
belongs to the state and we, currently right now, we have reoccurring.
$1.
Well, half of it maybe. So my initial research into it is it's half owned by the lottery and half owned by the state, DAS. Right now, we currently have reoccurring 5-year leases for $1 a year. And that's great, you know, it doesn't cost us anything, but there's no certainty when you're having to potentially renew every 5 years. If somebody wants to do something longer, potential opportunity that somebody wants 10 or 20, 30-year option, that makes it difficult to make an agreement like that. So,
The Regional Solutions can help us negotiate that too.
well, so I've talked with DAS and DAS told me that the Department of Administrative Services, they told me that on their side of it, they can be very generous in what we would pay for, you know, what a sales price that they would agree to. The lottery by statute has to get full market value. So if the building was appraised at $400,000, they have to get $200,000 on the lottery side. The other side of it, we can negotiate with DAS.
How about a fairgrounds, on emergency management related, or just other use stuff that you can think of that we could use
There's
for
so
that?
much, that could qualify under it that could be used within this calendar year. There's no shortage.
The problem is we have to have it obligated by contract or MOU or something
But
like
we
that by
already
the end
have
of this year.
Contractors engaged, you can pull out one piece of it that qualifies under that and attach those dollars to it. Like, that would be a very, very easy and intuitive process right now. Where we have all those numbers broken up.
And then
you
it
know,
has to be
that's-
expended.
Do we want a work session
It
on this
would
or
be
something? Cause,
expended by 2025 easily.
yeah, maybe we should have a work
Because
session.
we're also using ARPA dollars for that project, that original million, there are
Because-
also ARPA dollars that are being,
From the state.
that are assigned and expended within this same process.
When it's my turn on general deliberations, I'll give you some real quick bullet points on the broadband, but it might be good to just save a little bit for something that a contract, not no one in particular, but
I
I
can't
guess.
say.
I know, but how do you obligate to, like, just something you're gonna do in the future? How do
You
you?
can't. It has to be,
So
it
how
has
would
to be
you-
It
obligated
has to
by
be kind of in
contract.
motion.
So you would, if we were gonna buy that building, we'd have to rush to negotiate and get it all figured
Basically.
it out by end of December?
Basically,
Everything's gonna be figured out end of December?
yeah. Which, I'm supposed to have a call back from DAS this week. Because they were gonna get in touch with the lottery, then they have to do a 30-day notice, but if it's. They have to put out a procurement surplus property, they have to put out a 30-day notice that the building is up for. Interested parties, and then whoever's could potentially is interested would apply to it.
Just, I don't know, if we have these dollars available that could be used for a project that can do more good in the community than just holding this building that we're already getting for $1 every. Like, I have a harder time wanting to obligate this, available funds for the purchase of a building.
Well, there's
Yeah,
more
we're
to it, there's more to it than that. but because it has potential contract litigation to it, I would want to do an executive session to discuss that part of it.
And I don't think I'm thinking anything right now, but as regards the future of recycling in our buildings over there, if there's anything we can do to make those in good shape for ARPA types of purposes, and we could
But
get a
like I
contract
said,
going.
you'd have to be under contract. That
Well-
would be the challenge at this juncture.
All right, well, we can't figure that out right now.
No, we can't, but I wanted to, because I just found this out earlier this week, last week, on the deadline for it. So, couple of other things, it can, like I said, public health, law enforcement, public safety. And whereas this year, the sheriff's office has budgeted a vehicle, we could buy a vehicle with it for the sheriff's office. And then those general fund dollars that we did have budgeted for it would end up going back into, we'd be replacing those dollars with ARPA funds, and those others would go back into the beginning fund balance. So it's, basically a way of paying for something without using general fund dollars. In a couple instances like that. Health or home health hospice needs a vehicle. And I had budgeted some money for a used vehicle to get for them, but again, if we could buy a new vehicle, it's funds that we wouldn't be spending from the general fund. So there's some options, there's some things, some creative
So
things,
how
that whatever.
You wanna schedule a work session?
That might be a need to be a sooner than later then, but we'd need to have an executive prior to the work session, is what you're saying, to discuss.
Yeah, because I'd like to
elements of it.
inform you, I'd like to inform you both of some potential with the forum site building.
How's that, that Thanksgiving week, are you guys going out of town or anything like that, or?
I'm not,
I'm going out of town.
No.
if we, I'll double check, I wanna check with council.
Information to have that like this Friday.
I do. So, but let me,
The
I wanna,
executive session.
yes, let me double check with council, because I don't wanna say something that I'm not at liberty to say in public. I don't wanna affect
So
anything,
maybe
but so let me
let us
check with
know.
council on that, but it should be just a
We're all
quick
be
phone
here
call,
for
as
the
long
bid,
as,
so we can.
council says, yeah, it falls under executive session guidelines.
The 8th, are you available on the 8th?
Of December?
No,
November, this Friday.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, if we're gonna
yes, I am.
make some of these
I am.
considerations, we're gonna have to,
The only thing I have on Friday is the 9 o'clock safety meeting,
yeah. I saw
from
that.
9 to 11:30.
What time works for you?
I'm pretty open that day.
I'm pretty open that day, but not before your meeting.
Okay.
So
1
get-
o'clock,
Get back
1:15?
to us once you've talked to Dominic,
Yeah.
we'll pencil it in.
Okay.
Anytime late morning to afternoon.
Okay. And then a work session after that, potentially for sometime the following week.
That's pretty,
Commissioner-elect, would you be available for any of that?
the 14th is the best day for me that next week.
I'm wide open that day.
I only have something at 11 for an hour. So,
Rob, are you there?
Yeah, I was looking at my calendar. What time were you talking about on the 14th?
Would the conversation on the 8th apply to, things in the future that he would, should be present for?
Yeah, I mean, it's,
So the 8th, we're proposing at 1:30,
an executive
an
session.
executive session that I think you would benefit from hearing.
Friday, November 8th at 1:30.
Uh-huh. And then did you say the 14th?
The 14th. Have something from 11 to 12. And that'll be a work session.
about 10 o'clock. But go ahead, Rob.
Nope, you just answered my question, 10 o'clock.
Well, how does that work? How does that look for?
It'll be fine as long as we're done by, I mean, we.
I have
should be
something at
done
11, but it's a Zoom. I get, so if you think an hour's enough,
I think so. We can throw some ideas out and decide.
work session.
Yes.
Okay. I will get in touch with county council this afternoon on the, executive session, whether it qualifies under that or not.
Okay.
I'll want to make a phone call to another party as well, though, before.
Yeah, do the,
So I'll
whatever
take care of
legwork, you
Yep.
can then let us know.
So that's all I had on ARPA right now. I just wanted to let everybody know that we need to.
Yeah, it's things like that that kind of are falling off our radar a little bit, and I can't believe it's not right.
I can't remember.
Here we are.
And there is a potential. I talked with the judge in Gilliam County the other day too, and some of the stuff that's authorized. And I, again, didn't know all the different parameters is that it would be nice if we had a local state ARPA person that we could have gone to for questions like this throughout the past couple of years.
They did a lot of,
That's federal, right?
federal Zoom
It is,
meetings.
But AOC was
NACO did a
associated with
lot.
a lot,
Yeah.
NACO.
Yeah,
quite a
they did.
bit.
We attended.
They
that.
sent out a lot of stuff when it was first passed to remind people of deadlines and stuff, but that was a few years ago.
So in talking with the Gilliam County judge, if we can go back, there's potential that we could go back, well, I don't want to say potential. We're exploring the possibility of being able to go back and amend our reports over the last couple of years, our annual reports that we had to do on what we used the money for. Things like donations or what to nonprofits, like the money that we give the hub every year, it's a nonprofit. If we can go back and amend some of those annual reports of the funds that we've already expended out of general funds, then we could just take that money, turn it right back around into general fund and it's been spent.
I don't think we'll have any trouble obligating these dollars personally.
So there's,
I think
There's
if we
some
had a
options.
bigger pot of money to work with, that would totally be a good thing, you know, sadly, our county. You see what you see, but.
No, compared to some.
there were some provisions because we did get the lowest amount, like other small counties, the lowest amount of funds. Reporting requirements were not the same as other counties that got larger amounts.
Right.
And again, my interpretation was that we didn't have a spending or a time that we had to get rid of it because we got this lesser amount.
I knew we did, but I was thinking it was 2025, not. I knew the end date was 2025.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's actually
2024 piece of having it. under
26, yeah.
contract.
25 or 24 obligated, 26 spent.
Okay,
And we don't have any, well, other than in the fair, that if the event center, if it meets those guidelines, we don't have any other projects that are that close to being ready to kick off in order to obligate them to and be spent within that next 2 years.
No, it would be a very worthy cause.
That's all I had on that. I just, informational at this point.
I got some things, but they're fast.
Go ahead.
So. The archive building, you're finding out more from DAS. But there was the hospice fundraiser. I hope that went well for them. I did attend for a while and it was very lovely. Any word on any issues with large amounts of tax collections that we're not getting? You know, we heard about one things months ago. Are you hearing anything from the assessor's office?
I just spoke with the assessor this morning. That one account is now up to probably around $2.25 million. Over this tax year and the previous 2 tax years. In county funds, it's about, from what we would get in our disbursement, it's, she just printed those out to me. I want to say it was 100. I don't know. It's on a
But
calculator thing, but I want to say it's well over $100,000 is our portion of it.
so, okay. Um,
Yeah, that would be our portion.
Out of 2 million?
you don't have to look it up. I'm just.
Well, yeah, let me
basing
see,
the
it
numbers
was,
things.
I'll figure it out here real quick, like she gave me the percentage, so, and numbers are just, I don't know, not adding up in my head here.
Nice to hear the budget officer say
That was
that.
$250,000. Not too much.
I'm gonna miss it.
2.5.
You don't think you will.
There you go. Times.
Are you
So,
tracking
okay,
that?
so total over the past 3 years, $775,000 would be our portion of it. Divided by 3, so it's about $250,000 a year that we're missing out on in tax collections.
Okay. Again, I'm just gonna be bulleting quick things jumping from one to the next. APHIS, did you ever hear an email update or anything from our APHIS guy?
As far as,
Well, when he was here last year or earlier this year, he said he'd occasionally.
I haven't, have not received anything from them on what they've, what work they've done.
Is, you're gonna ask him or?
Yeah, I was actually gonna wait until next month probably, because being the end of the year.
Okay. Being that we have a public hearing tonight on the library, I kind of looked over our minutes from that meeting last night and I was just looking at something and somebody's statement in there, not one of ours, it said, well, then if it was probably someone on behalf of the library foundation and I said, well, if the county's gonna be, cutting funds, then the county needs to create a special taxing district for the library. And so when you talk tonight, you may wanna give clarification that that's not the county's responsibility to initiate something like that. And if you need any information on that, find out from the clerk or whoever, but it's not like we get to decide. Voters decide, it gets voted in or voted out, and it's an initiative by entities that want to do that, correct? If
Yes,
I'm wrong, correct me, but I just thought that's in the minutes because somebody said it. and
I
that's
know
what
in
they
a
said.
greater district, it was one through Valley, the obligation was on the party that wanted to stand about them. I guess.
the
And
foundation,
or,
the,
or citizens that form a
Yeah.
little informal group or something,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Just so
And that
that
has
in case that's something that comes up tonight, just thought.
that has been investigated and they looked at what it would take to do it. And it was dropped by those who looked into it.
Well, the ones who looked into it were the library advisory board, excellent people, but not necessarily the folks that are particularly great at getting the energy going on something like that. If there's all these other people that are friends of the library informally that, they could provide that leadership if they were going to do that. Yes, sir, do we need to?
I was just wondering, are you guys in session or?
Yes, we are.
Oh, God, I'm sorry.
That's all
Have a
right.
good day.
You're welcome to come and sit down and listen if you'd like.
Well, I was just gonna say, what'd you guys do to the bathroom? Back when
Haven't been asked that
I was,
Nothing.
I was 18 years old, I was the youngest grand juror here. I even got a little reward for it, or award. And they'd take roll call. We'd go inspect the jail. And back then Commonwealth was building all the power lines. So most of the cases were about thefts from Commonwealth. And we'd break for lunch. And all of a sudden, lunch is, you see, I was still in high school, so the lunch was real quick. But I had like a half hour to spare, so I'd end up in the bathroom singing Ghost Riders in the Sky, because it echoed really good. I come back like 40 some years later, and you guys done something to the bathroom, it don't echo anymore.
You know what?
It really echoes, so.
It wasn't us.
We need
It really wasn't.
we need an investigation. Y'all have a.
Letter to the editor.
There you go.
All right. so-
Thank you, sir.
That was a good one.
I want to read that in there.
So,
That'll get me to read
Delayed
it.
public comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Holly York and I both attended the Oregon Connections Telecommunication Conference last week. It was Thursday and Friday. It was excellent. I've asked Holly if she wants to share anything, but I just wanted to let you all know that from that, not only, you know, a conference where you learn things and stuff, the networking and the connections really were great. And we've got a Zoom meeting with Eric Hunsucker, Golden State Net, GSN, a CEO of a company down in California. People who, besides Oregon, who doesn't want to do anything over here, that are in bordering states, Nevada and Oregon, to at least start talking to us and talking big picture. Because I don't think we're gonna get much of a chance with the federal dollars that have come to the Oregon Broadband Office, because you can see by the way they awarded the first few things, we didn't get the technical assistance. So, and at some point, they're gonna get stopped for not serving us. So anyway, we're working on some things. It's just discussion, but it's still very encouraging once you meet some people you didn't know. Link Oregon, Steve Corbido is very good on Middle Mile, and he helps, you know, introduce people. They had a session on permitting, and they had the Forest Service, and they had the BLM, and it was nightmare of what has to go and how far behind they were. You weren't there for that one, did
I went
you?
to the other one.
Yeah, and it was, I guess the feedback they've gotten from the attendants was, well, that just shuts everything down for like 2 years, you know, for everything, even if they don't even look at them for 6 to 8 months and all that. So it's very interesting to be aware of that. But anyway, I'm kind of energized because there is stuff we can do. Just Holly and me seem to be the ones doing it so far. And we are getting pre-qualified as a county, which is very bureaucratic, but Holly's been putting it together for the BEAD, which is the next big grant that we're not going to be applying for directly, but they said it, even if you're a county, if you get pre-qualified as best you can, then they can continue to talk with you, you know, for extra money and stuff that they have that they want to give you. So all that's, it's little baby steps, but it's really good. And then just for general information, not broadband, is the keynote speaker right off the bat, presented on artificial intelligence, which is not something I know a lot about. And, you know, I know Commissioner Shellman's way more up to speed on just modern things, as is Holly, but, yeah, that was eye-opening to me. The way that AI tools can, you know, reduce the time spent on tasks and things. We know that, you know, we know automated minutes and generated and all the chat GPS and stuff. But it's coming rather quickly to the world, to the US, and
It's
to the
not popping up on
workforce.
your computer, it keeps popping up on mine.
No, it knows,
So,
it
yeah,
knows I'm a dinosaur and it fled. But, anyway, it was very good for just, I mean, it was in Sun River, so it wasn't too far away. Had lots of
And
snow driving home.
Somebody received an award. I wasn't there.
I'm waiting for you to
Oh,
talk about it.
no.
Yes, Commissioner Doro received an award and got a big round of applause for her work in broadband and bringing awareness to the issues. And
A lot of people came up, that was on Thursday on Friday and said, I just looked up where Harney County was. I mean, these people didn't even know. There were a lot of internet service providers, a lot of companies. It wasn't just internet, you know, it was other related companies. It was the 28th year of this conference, apparently, first year I was there. And, I usually am not, I mean, I get something out of conferences, but that was an awesome conference, very efficient and a lot got done.
Yeah.
So, and Holly was, making lots of connections too, and so appreciate that. That's all I had on that. Oh, let's see. No, that is it. Thank you.
Mr. Shell?
Well, Division 512 will be looking at modeling. We were given the opportunity to kind of different scenarios that would be plugged into the model for the groundwater model. Things the model can and cannot do. Obviously, it's to be looked at as a potential scenario for management. And so our initial blush at it was really interesting in the last RAC meeting. But trying to take in the vertical component when you're looking at a model, because the one we were presented, it was set at a specific depth vertically. And so you need a model that can encompass, you know, obviously groundwater isn't just 100 feet. Wells aren't just 100 feet. And so trying to wrap your head around that 3D, you know, part of how to interpolate some of this information as we get presented on it is kind of one of the bigger challenges. The model, trying to keep in mind what you are and aren't seeing. And so that'll be a very interesting part of the upcoming RAC meeting. There was discussion around the economics and the impact that'll happen in Harney County at the last RAC meeting, as you're aware. We were able to get Eco Northwest designated to do an economic study. They will, but we get to set the parameters for it and trying to drive that bus. And so hopefully it will be a good product in the end. They have reached out to our local assessor and treasury, or not treasury, tax collector, but I know this is a terribly busy time of year for them. So I'm going to check back in with them and make sure that those contacts are made. And so that'll be moving forward. Obviously, it's under the current timeline that the RAC's been given. There's no possible way to accomplish the management scenarios, the economic piece and that. And so I see this being pushed out into the future, a few more meetings than originally proposed. The whole initial RAC process. The department is looking at taking some action within the basin prior to the RAC finalizing, which is, oh my gosh, which is a weird scenario because like, why didn't you do that before the RAC? But here we are, and now we're in the middle of the RAC trying to write rules, and now you're gonna start some form of regulation, so it kind of makes it a little jacked up. So we're trying to navigate that on top of it, as well as the volunteer agreement pieces in draft and comments are being given on it. So
How early might regulation begin?
it all depends on if it goes the curtailment route or volunteer agreement route. Volunteer agreement route can take place as soon as the volunteer agreements are approved by the commission. Curtailment could go up to 6 years, 6 to 8 years, depending on the legal system. It'll vary if it goes the regulation route versus voluntary agreement that can take place.
Yeah,
No, if you wanna have your slap in the face.
Thank you. I'm still happy about
12 is really fun. Yeah.
anything else?
No, that's been the biggest thing that I'm trying to slog through.
So just a couple of quick things. Don't know if I mentioned it before, but we're set for mediation with the collective bargaining agreement, unit in December, next month, first of the month. We don't have an agreement at this time still. And landfills. Holly is working with the Oregon, DEQ and, trying to get our permits renewed, another 10-year permits that are due this year, they're expiring this year.
Did they come out and do their evaluations of the landfills? How did it go?
I've got positive feedback.
Awesome,
It's good.
awesome.
I know, they were really responsive, like Bill Ollie in general, like we've been texting back and forth and calling and I said, hey, you can't have this. He pulled it out, like it was great. So, yeah.
Was that the metrics?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We gotta have the.
Thanks for the pictures. That was
Are inmates allowed to do work? You know, give them some orange vests, our own inmates and take them to the other fields to pick up trash.
Yeah, there's.
Of course, they could escape, but.
I don't know, I'll have to double check with, on, if it was work release, I think, yeah, but they curtailed some of that, I think, wasn't there a ballot measure or something here a year or so ago that curtailed our
No, we haven't.
ability to
I
put
haven't
them
seen
on
it being done.
waivers?
Termed it as slavery
Yeah,
in the ballot measures.
They wouldn't have made it back in the 70s and 80s, would they?
But, in the process of renewing our permits, there's some additional steps that keep coming up, or not keep coming up, but that have come up. One of them is that now the state's saying they want an engineered review for closures of what it would cost to close. the
Us
dump.
to have to
Yes,
pay for that?
yes, because there are landfills, so. Which the plan itself that Holly had done, last month was $6,000. And now it's looking like another $6,000 to have an engineer go out and look at the landfills and do a cost estimate.
Let's see if we can get a grant from a, what do we call it, ecological group. See if they'll fund it for us.
Now, again, there might be another use for some ARPA funds. I think we're gonna need to have some discussion in the future. These are licensed under Harney County, these landfills. And historically in the past, they've been allowed to be operated, managed and run by the local communities that they're in, which is great. It doesn't put any big burden on the county that way. But, if increased costs are gonna be coming along to have these open, we might have to set some fees, for all of them, not just set by this community or that community, but set by the county itself in order to be able to have these fees.
Costs
Yes,
associated,
Yeah.
you know.
so it's a discussion that's gonna come, probably in the next 6 months or so, probably. That's all I have. I just wanted to bring you up to speed on those two things. Any other discussion?
Any more on the VQ, looking on the,
Oh, on the Lincoln Building. So they, I did get notice here just the other day, phone call, I think Monday. They are going to postpone because the weather is getting cold, the fires this summer delayed them for a little bit, and then because of smoke, air quality, and availability of contractors, they're going to delay their mitigation work until spring.
Is it weatherproofed enough for another winter?
Yeah, that was one of their concerns, is that some of the caulking that's used around the windows has to be taken out. And then that would leave exposed windows, so.
well, thank you for the update.
Yeah. Anything further? Not hearing anything, county court shall stand adjourned. And, reminder, 6 o'clock this evening for the public hearing from the library.
They have to do for the landfills, they have to do that. And additionally, they need a construction certificate as well.